Tosh.
Hey guys, what's happening? Nihat here with Film Comics Explained, and today we'll be taking a look at Us, a complex and ambitious psychological horror film written and directed by Jordan Peele that follows in the footsteps of his magnum opus that was Get Out, which had been nominated for Best Actor, Best Director, Best Picture, and had won the Best Original Screenplay category at the Academy Awards. Though admittedly not as groundbreaking and provocative as his superbly executed Get Out, which was an aggressive and poignant exploration of race in America, Us is an intelligent, though sometimes baffling, surrealist exploration of America as a whole, and the questionable pursuit of happiness that drives everybody. While Get Out skillfully navigated through deep-seated racial tensions within the country from an African-American perspective, seeing its satirical and macabre meet-the-parents-type narrative culminate into a satisfying conclusion, Us is a less straightforward, disjointed, open-ended, and almost dreamlike allegory to class and the picturesque pursuit of the American dream at the expense of others. Us follows the Wilson family, with Adelaide, played by the sensational Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke as her husband Gabriel, and their two children Zora and Jason, with newcomers Shahada Wright-Joseph and Evan Alex. The Wilsons, who are on vacation in California, have their holiday cut short by their seemingly deranged doppelgangers who ruthlessly stalked and hunted the family down. These doubles, referred to in the film as the Tethered, are explained as being part of an enormous movement of people created in the past by the government who were forced to live underground as shadows of their surface counterparts, until one of them unites the entire collective in a bloody act of defiance, revenge, and rebellion. From the outset, it may seem like the film is simply about a family on vacation that are terrorized by their doppelgangers, but the film has much more to say, and if you'll indulge me, I'm going to attempt to make sense of the story, the characters, themes, and the overarching meaning of the film. Before we begin, I must say that from a logical and practical standpoint, a lot of the things seen in the film don't make sense and are left unexplained. However, I don't believe it was Peele's intention for the film to be literal, but instead the plot points, narrative, and characters are used to serve a symbolic and metaphorical underlying message. Much like the characters we follow who have to contend with their sinister doppelgangers known as the Tethered, the title Us reveals a dual meaning that refers to the US itself and its inhabitants who strive for wealth and the American dream, only to find that their materialistic pursuits and disregard for the underprivileged, symbolized by the Tethered who themselves are cast aside and forgotten in the underbelly of the country, would ultimately lead to their collective downfall. The aim of the film is to get us all to take a closer look at ourselves and question the things that we value and strive for in life.
Wow.
That's right. It's even got one of these, baby!
To start things off, we need to understand the Tethers, what they are, and how they tie into the film's exploration of social classes. Created in an unspecified time in the past, the Tethers are a part of a secret underground research project in which doubles of the American people were created in the underground tunnels described at the film's opening. In essence, they're a representation of the marginalized in society. We find out that these Tethered, who mirrored their above-ground counterparts in movement and familial life choices, shared a soul between themselves and their surface doubles. After this mysterious project was abandoned by the government, the Tethers were forced to live off of caged rabbits that also occupied the underground living quarters. As the film unfolded, these neglected shadows would ultimately be mobilized by one of their members, Red, played by the talented Lupita Nyong'o, who coordinates a countrywide rebellion where the Tethers would attack their surface doubles, as seen with the terrorizing of the Wilsons and their friends, the Tylers. There's no explanation as to which branch of the government was responsible for the social experiment, why it was initiated, or why they abandoned it, though I'd assume it was because it was a huge waste of taxpayers' money. Now, the Tethers all wear red jumpsuits and a leather glove, symbolizing their unified front, collective will, and lack of individualization, and they all seem to be armed with a pair of scissors, which are two symmetrical sides coming together for the single purpose of division, a literal and metaphorical reflection of their desire to sever their connection to their surface counterparts in order to achieve liberation and ultimately the freedom to forge their own path in life. While the entire movement was led by Red, one of the major twists at the end of the film is that Red, who we assume was a member of the Tethered, was actually the original Adelaide, and when she'd stumbled into a house of mirrors as a kid, which led to one of the underground facilities, she was actually attacked by her underground tether, who choked her and dragged her below the surface, before taking her place above ground. Upon rewatching the film, this actually made perfect sense, as it explained why Adelaide could no longer speak after the incident, and while it's assumed that this was due to her experiencing something traumatic, the truth was that Red, who had assumed the role of Adelaide, had never spoken before, with all the Tethers resorting to grunts and moans as a form of communication, due to the lack of education they'd received. This also explained why Red was the only member of the Tethered that could speak. The fake Adelaide is eventually able to learn how to speak with the help of speech therapists, and when the Wilsons and the Tylers go on a getaway to Santa Cruz, the location where Red had swapped places with the real Adelaide, the fake Adelaide also tells her friend Kitty that she was no good at talking, one of many clues we get of her true origins, along with her inability to keep to the beat when listening to music. This is further reinforced in her final battle with the real Adelaide, who effortlessly dodges her attacks, having been a skilled ballet dancer, while her tether mirrored her from below in a brusque and less elegant manner. Us completely subverts our expectations by making the real protagonist appear to be the antagonist, tricking us into rooting for the villain, while the film, or more specifically the subplot of Red and Adelaide's relationship, was actually an unsuccessful revenge story, where the battle between the real Adelaide and fake Adelaide is lost, whilst the war between the tethered and their surface counterparts is won. This is perfectly encapsulated by the fake Adelaide, who ultimately comes out as the victor, showing visual and auditory clues to her past, like the wearing of the maniacal grin that the other tethered had all shared, shortly followed by the images of the tethered seen holding hands across the country, having liberated themselves from their forced existence as shadows. Now, due to the fact that Red had spent her entire life plotting revenge, remembering only a few remnants of her former life above ground, she becomes fixated on one of the very last things she had seen, which was a commercial for the Hands Across America campaign, launched in 1986, aimed at fighting hunger and homelessness to help those that were living in poverty. The event essentially involved people linking hands across the country and donating money for a place in the line, and with 6.5 million participants, the campaign had raised about $14 million, falling way short of the $50 million target organizers were hoping to collect. I should also point out that the campaign lasted 15 minutes, which was the amount of time Adelaide was missing for in the film. While the event was a mild success, getting a small size of the population to work together to help the unfortunate, it was ultimately seen as a disappointment, and it was often mocked in the years that followed. This is in stark contrast to the overwhelming success of Red's campaign of unification, which saw her inversion of the campaign bring the entire population of tethers together. I think it's also important to note that the lyrics of the original campaign is symbolic of the relationship between the surface people and their underground doppelgangers. The final lines of the song, "Hands across America, hands across this land I love, divided we fall, united we stand," is a reflection of the divided surface world which ultimately collapses, while the united tethers stand with their hands across America in triumph. I'm sure that many of you would have also noticed the biblical allusions, mirror imagery, and motif of Jeremiah 11:11, which is a verse from the book of Jeremiah. At the start of the film, we see a homeless man with a sign reading Jeremiah 11:11. When her father wins a game at a stall, Adelaide chooses the number 11 prize. 11:11 is also the score of the football game that Gabriel watches on the television, the time that appears on the alarm clock, and the channel 11 is also what the family tunes into when they watch the news and discover that the tethers were taking over on a national scale. And even the scissors used by the tethered are in essence two-bladed ones. Finally, when the tethers arrive at the doorstep of the Wilsons for the first time, not only do they link up together, foreshadowing the Hands Across America motif, but the four of them also stand together, resembling four ones. So what does it all mean? Well, the chapter and verse allude to God's wrath against the Jews for worshipping false pagan deities in ancient Babylon, with the passage reading, "Therefore thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape, and though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them." Now, this worshipping of false idols can be interpreted as the pursuit and adoration for material wealth and technology, as seen with both the Tylers, who are affluent members of society, and the Wilsons, who inhabit a place between the middle and upper class. And the tethered essentially represent the evil that the Lord brings upon them, which he also assures us they will not be able to escape, no matter how much they tried. For me, both Get Out and Us explore the complacency, self-approbation, and disseverance that emanates from privilege, with those that have everything they need still striving for more, whilst those below them continue to suffer. With phenomenal performances from the entire ensemble, who have the difficult task of performing dual characters, the skillful cinematography, masterful direction from Peele, and a fantastical musical score that would forever change the way that we see the hit song by Lunas. Us, like its predecessor Get Out, is an ambitious explosion of imagery and ideas that proves that horror can be used as a piece of thought-provoking social commentary. Well, that's all for today, folks. A big thanks to all of you guys who requested an explanation of Us. I'm curious to hear what you guys thought about the movie and what some of your theories are, so please share that in the comments below. Don't forget to hit subscribe and click the notification icon to stay up to date on all my content, and if there's anything else you'd like to request, please don't hesitate to ask. As always, it's been a pleasure. Nihat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.
Now, I thought I already done told y'all to get off my property, okay? So if y'all want to get crazy, we can get crazy. Hey, hey, hey!